This is Mark Zuckerberg, and this is Tech Addicts.
This week we look at the Oppo Find X5 series, a £1 billion solar power station in space, the Vivo pad, the OnePlus pad, and European law clamping down on big tech dominance. Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts Podcast. I'm Gareth Miles, the host of the Tech Addicts Podcast, and this is Ted Salmon, the co-host of the Tech Addicts Podcast.
I'm not awake yet. We've been stolen an hour because of this stupid BST and GMT system. When are they going to stop it? It's just stupid, and I feel tired now, so you'll have to do all the talking.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm knackered too, but I did hear yet again, I think every year or every time the clocks change, that there is actually another argument taking place to actually really get rid of it this time. The same as last time and the time before.
I saw that as well. There was a thing going on in America where they said, this really is the last time. But
really is the last time.
If the Americans did it, I think everyone else would probably follow eventually. But because America are not doing it, then everyone's leaving it well alone. But anyway, there you go. Weather forecast is blue sky and sunshine. That sounds like a ELO track.
Yeah, white wispy clouds here with blue behind it, but a good day is planned for everyone. I was thinking, Ted, if we were to take a stand, you and I, and say no to daylight saving time and carry on about our business, we'd probably end up in prison.
How would that work out? Go on, you've thought it through.
Well, you turn up an hour late for work.
Or turn up an hour late for your court appearance.
Yes, and then you stay an hour later. And unfortunately, it's kind of front-loaded, so you get into trouble to start with. Well, unless it's later in the year, in which case then you just arrive early and you tap your watch and say, where the hell have you been, person?
I knew someone in my past who refused to change their watch and their clocks, and they just lived in GMT the whole year round, and they just ignored everything around them. But they were a person that was not working and had very limited responsibilities and not much family, and but it must have got confusing when the 6 o'clock news comes on the telly and stuff. But yeah, he refused to change his watches. I can't be bothered. I'll have to change it back if I change it forward.
Probably didn't get invited to too many things or have too many scheduled appointments by maybe the government or their doctor or something like that.
He did have a learning disability, but that's so it might be a reason.
Well, possibly, yes. So don't like change.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, it's Mother's Day, actually, so, I hope you've all bought your mother something. Aside from those in America, don't panic. It's not Mother's Day there yet.
It's different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got my mother a box of Ferrero Rocher. She was very happy.
Yeah.
What did you get your mum?
Depends on what they have left. Probably a tin of soup and a box of tissues or something like that, whatever I can find.
Nice to know you're organised like me.
Oh, yeah, they're busy lives. I mean, they just don't get that. I should have gone yesterday with those tiny moments that I had available to myself that I could have gone to the shop.
Instead of sitting down quaffing beer.
After doing a full day's work, the driveway is clean, the gates have been ready for painting, and something else. Cars are washed. Yeah.
Well done.
Productive stuff. And everything was set up for dinner last night for the wife coming home and being able to walk straight in and have dinner outside. So, it was all well organised. I bet the people looking for a Tech Addicts podcast are intrigued to know the ins and outs of my daily routine and Saturday problems. But I suppose, without further ado, we'll get into the feedback and contributions.
Right.
Without further ado.
Yes.
We won't talk about anything else.
Nothing.
No. Nothing.
Oh, did you see
Yes, I have a bit of cornflake, I think, stuck at the back of my throat, so I may be coughing throughout this entire podcast.
Oh, dear.
I just can't get it dislodged. It'll probably become infected, and then I'll end up in hospital, and no one will send me cards because they're too busy to go to the shop to buy me a card. Yeah. Okay, Ian Barton has written in on a bug in Google Photos, and he has noticed that nobody is able to download Google Photos without losing location data from the EXIF, E-X-I-F. I was going to use rClone to make a backup copy of my photos uploaded to Google, a topic we touched on the last show. However, it seems... there's a bit of cornflake there. However, it seems if you try to do this, Google strips out the location information from the photos EXIF data. This is a bug that was reported to Google more than 3 years ago. I'll maybe try Google Takeout to see if it does the same. It's really quite interesting as well. I might have to check Amazon because I do, a double backup, one to Google, one to Amazon. See if Amazon does anything like that at all.
Well, it is a bit of an outlier, really, isn't it? rClone. Ian does kind of tend to go his own way and try these open source thingies and which is great because it gives us an insight into other options out there. But he's probably quite right. If you use Google Takeout, they probably would do it properly. So whose fault might it be?
Well, yeah. It also feeds into a story that we're going to be talking about later on about big tech and things that they're going to have to start doing. So we might have to start seeing the likes of Google changing things here so that that kind of information is made available for other clients that may be pulling information out of it.
We'll chat about that later. Meanwhile, a thank you to Chad Dixon for working really hard this week to try and educate my tiny brain into understanding how LP records work and the needles and getting the music and the grooves and the vibrations. Sorry, Chad. At the end of the day, I think I'm just too thick to understand. However many videos and however many articles you throw at me, which I have read and watched, I just don't get it still. So sorry about that, but thank you for trying. It was a valiant effort. And lastly, John Husband is on Linux and Chromebook update. Yesterday, I decided to turn Linux on my Lenovo IdeaPad Duet, that's the original one presumably, and have a play. I'm not a Linux expert, but I have a basic understanding of how it works. Using the terminal, I've installed LibreOffice and GIMP, and both packages loaded with no issues. LibreOffice Writer runs well, but I've not fully tested GIMP. Once you have downloaded the software, it places them in a Linux app folder on the desktop where you can easily access them. I then discovered that following the following video, the attached video, we'll put a link in the show notes, that shows you how to add 2 Linux app stores onto your Chromebook. Very easy to follow and allows downloading of software without using the Linux terminal. Although I hope you're keeping up at the back. Although the guy who did the video does mention not all software downloaded from Linux app stores will run on a Chromebook, as it's still in beta. So, when I've looked at LibreOffice in the past, one of the things a lot of these packages can't do is desktop publishing still. They do all the basics like Writer and spreadsheets and even what's it called? The other one. Anyway, it does most of the basic packages that you'll get in Office 365, but it doesn't tend to do desktop publisher, and that's one of the things that everyone seems to miss out. But yeah, it's good that you're pushing the boundaries, John. Well done. Let us know how you get on with that. Have you played with any of that?
I have, yeah. I have Linux running on my Chromebook, primarily for Steam, but I also have Audacity running as well, which I don't think I've ever actually used. I just have it there as a backup. But I had to go with GIMP, and it's a really good featured video editing software. But it always lacks the polish that we're somewhat used to whenever it comes to Windows or Mac OS applications. Linux, whilst it's because of its origins, it kind of feels a bit kind of cobbled together and a bit rusty around the edges and things. So it's not for all tastes, but GIMP ran very well. I haven't tried LibreOffice, although I do use it on my desktop as a Windows Office alternative. just so I can open documents natively. But then on a Chromebook, that happens in Google Docs, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So it's worth doing. I think there's going to be significant changes in the coming months because I think Google's really pushing for Linux to become a viable optional extra for everyone, especially with SteamOS steaming its way forward, and we'll come to that later in the show as well. Mm-hmm. All right, going into Hardline for the hardware, we start with this fantastical story that the UK, the country that comprises of Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, not Great Britain, the mainland, but the UK is going to build, get ready for this, a £16 billion solar power station. This is the country that finds it difficult to build a bridge between Northern Ireland and Scotland, is going to build a £16 billion solar power station.
In space.
In space.
Built by
yes.
robots.
Yeah.
My question about this was, how on earth it's okay to collect the solar energy, and fair enough, but how on earth do you get it back down to Earth? And apparently they're going to zap it by Wi-Fi, basically.
It's going to be like a beam. I think if you watch the film GoldenEye, you'll get the idea where there's a satellite with a big gold ray that comes down, and it gets caught in like this, what was it called, a retina or something like that, they called it. And then what that's going to do is, because it's the UK, it's going to be stored in 17 million car batteries that are stretched out as far as the eye can see on a football field, and it's going to keep them all charged up, and then that will last us for at least 14 minutes, or at least an area 20 kilometers in square kilometers or something like that.
Or until something in space goes and whacks into this thing and knackers it, and that's the end of the 17 billion quid.
Yeah, and that's entirely likely because this thing is super huge. It costs, or it weighs something like 2,000 tons, and it'll be 1.7 kilometers in diameter. So you should be able to see it from Earth.
Yeah, that's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, and with someone like Boris Johnson in charge of the country, it's likely to go ahead. Absolutely.
Well, they spent 17 billion quid on things, other things, so probably it's not that unlikely.
Yeah, I've got a funny feeling that the 17 billion will probably put into it and will have nothing to show for it. Absolutely nothing. Yeah. The terrestrial antenna, which is where they're going to collect the space energy from, is going to be 6.7 kilometres by 13 kilometres. And given the amount of space that there is in the UK that's available for doing this in, they've decided that they might actually possibly put that offshore and stick it in the sea, which is very wet. And having lots of electronical equipment on a wet surface is probably not a good idea. But I'm sure the boffins have thought of that sort of thing, and maybe they have some IP67 kind of spray to put over it or something like that. Who knows? I'm a bit sceptical about this. I don't see it happening because I live on the eastern side of Northern Ireland, and the amount of times I've heard about that bloody bridge over the last 20 years, I could write a book. I might do that.
I thought it was a tunnel.
Oh yeah, it's been through tunnel, and there was an absolutely brilliant one where they were going to have like this undersea roundabout near the Isle of Man, where there would be a tunnel going down to it from somewhere in Northern Ireland, and a tunnel going up kind of northeasterly towards Scotland, and then one that goes southeasterly toward to England or Wales, wherever it latched onto, and then one going to the Isle of Man. And it was, I think they'd drawn it in crayon, possibly on the back of a bar mat, whenever they were hammered, just to show that they were actually doing something in the House of Commons, about this. So I don't have much hope for this at all, and I think that the less we hear about it, the better, and start focusing on the social issues that we have at hand. Mm-hmm. Yes. So moving on to slightly other different odd news is that Apple have resolved an outage that affected iMessage, Apple Music, and the App Store and other services. I wasn't aware that this had actually happened, Ted. Can you tell us a wee bit more about it? Sounds fun.
That's because we don't use Apple products. But those that did use Apple products, apparently last Monday, there was an outage, which is really unusual for Apple. And it included services, iMessage services, particularly iCloud Mail, iCloud Keychain, App Store, Apple Music, TV Plus, podcasts, the whole lot really. Most of the Apple services, by the looks of it, just went down for a couple of hours or 3 hours or whatever it was. No, in fact it was 4 hours before it came back on. Just noteworthy, I suppose, because it's so unusual. You kind of expect other companies for that to happen to them, but it just goes to show it can happen to anyone. And it's no one is beyond these kind of technical problems. We had that with Amazon a couple of shows back. They had an outage for an afternoon one day, and Google have done the same. Quite a few times Google have done the same, and you suddenly think, oh yeah, that's not working. And then you hear later there's been some outage or something. But there's lots of websites you can go to, if you can get online, to look at where outages are and what they're doing. I do that with Vodafone quite a lot, and you can track down and see what's what with connectivity. But fortunately for Apple fans, it doesn't happen often.
No. There's a nice picture from Michael Billing, who is he's been in the Apple Store, and he noted that everyone was using paper instead of their technology because things aren't working. They couldn't write anything on the paper because the Apple Pencil doesn't contain a lead. But they had a go.
Yeah, you have a pen and paper, the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and it just shows our reliance on technology. Isn't that great when things go wrong? And it's going to get harder whenever there's going to be power cuts in the future, and I'm being a bit doom and gloom today. Let's move on to something that's a little less doomy and gloomy. The Oppo Find X series, X5 series. There are 3 new devices that Oppo have on sale now for the UK public to purchase, and I have to say they're actually really nice. I really fancy that Pro. I figured we could go through them individually and have a look at some of their specs because they are nice. We've been talking about rumoured specs for a while, but they're here with all their UK variant specs that we have. So it's running Android 12 with ColorOS 12.1. This is the X Find Pro, of course. X5 Find X5 Pro.
Yeah.
It's got a 6.7-inch WQHD Plus AMOLED display. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, which is, some people will criticize it for that, but the Gen 2 is not likely to happen right now. The cat is at the window. It's got 12 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage, a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, 80 watts Super VOOC wired charging, which means your phone will be pretty much charged even before you plug it in. And then it's got 50 watts wireless charging, which is great. I'd love to see that happening. Although I am wondering if you need specialized charge. And there's a wasp at the window as well, and the cat's looking at the wasp. Right, okay. A wasp? It's March. Right, okay. I do wonder if you need a specialised charger for that. I haven't looked into that particularly much. It's got a rather nice rear camera. There's a 50 megapixel 5-axis iOS lens, 50 megapixel ultra-wide lens as well, and a 13 megapixel telephoto lens. And then a front-facing 32 megapixel one. It's 5G, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5, NFC, ceramic out of building materials, and comes in a couple of different colours. That's the one, black and white. What do you think? Anything that pricked your ears up there?
Not really. It seemed a bit kind of something and nothing to me. Yes, okay, it's very well specified. It's top of the line in most things. As usual, we don't get the card slot and we don't get the 3.5mm. But perhaps we should stop talking about that because nobody's doing that anymore. This article was actually saying that this is a Galaxy S22 Ultra killer. And so I prepared a table of comparing the two together, and I know very clearly which one I'd rather have, without any question. The Samsung knocks spots off it, so I'm not quite sure why they were comparing those to each other. I guess because it's got a 4 nanometer chipset, the same kind of hardware in that respect. But if you look at the cameras, for example, the S22 Ultra's got a 10 times optical zoom. Well, there's nothing. There's a 2 times on the other one, and the OIS is not present. And so, if you look at it from the camera angle, all they've got is to shout about is the Hasselblad deal done with Hasselblad. Who knows what that is worth, if anything, in real terms. And I just think that there's just much more about the Samsung. So I'm not quite sure why they're doing that. But did you say you were comparing the 5 against the 5 Pro and the X5 Pro and what's the other one? The X5 and the X5 Lite, is it?
Well, yeah, I was going to have a look at some of the specs in the lesser models as well, because everyone features the main model. They don't really talk about the ones down the ladder as well. I wanted to have a look at some of the specs in those to see where they differ. But on your topic of the S22 Ultra, when you look at the price, to buy it off Amazon today, it's the 12 gigabyte RAM, 256 gigabyte of the X5 Pro is $1,049 compared to the S22. And that's 128 gigabyte and 8 gigabytes of RAM for $1,149. So there's £100 of a difference there, but quite a noticeable step up in specs from Oppo.
Yeah, okay.
So that kind of really factors into it, and everybody's looking at the amount of money that they're spending on hardware at the moment and spending less.
Yeah, but if you've got £1,000 to spend, I think spending 1,100 is not going to, if you're up there anyway, you're not going to be thinking about another £100 on top.
Well, maybe it could be the make or break. There is always a make or break time for something, and for someone who's going to spend £1,100 on a phone, seeing 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes as opposed to 8 and 128 could be that defining factor.
Okay.
I think I'm sensible.
I quite prefer the lesser models personally, because they're smaller, physically smaller. So right down to the light version, I'm looking at the specs now, which I hadn't done before. They seem to be 6.4 inch screen, whereas the Pro is a whacking great big 6.7, the usual thing. So I think I would.
Well, the X5 is the 6.5.
Yeah, that's
fully
right.
HD plus.
But what I don't like is that the cheaper lower end one comes with Android 11 out of the box. I think it's about time that stopped now. I think things that are coming out of boxes and brand new now, March, April 22. We should be talking. Android 13 is out there. Well, in beta, whatever. But let's get 12 on the map, please, everyone.
Yeah, it is coming in the coming weeks. I think they're just sort of rolling it out and testing stability, because they're all built on different platforms here as well. The X5 has a Snapdragon 888 inside it, whereas the X5 Lite has the Dimensity 900 from MediaTek. Yeah. But they both have 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage, which is a good option. The regular X5 retains the cameras from the Pro, the 50 megapixels ultra wide and 13 megapixel telephoto, whereas the Lite drops that down to a single 64 megabyte main camera with an 8 megapixel ultra wide and a 2 megapixel macro camera on there as well, which you quite like as well. You like your macro cameras, don't you?
Not a 2 megapixel one, which would be crap.
A fair point. It's got 65 watt SuperVOOC in there, which is nice. So it should rattle up the power pretty quickly, whereas the X5 has the 80 watt wired and then the 30 watt wireless charging. So that'll do it even faster.
And there's a huge price difference from across the range, from 1,049 quid, as you say. Well, actually, I think you can pay more if you up the specs on that. You can pay more than that, but down to 400 quid. for the light version. So yeah, you pay your money, you take your choice. The light version has got a micro SD card slot. Has it got 3.5mm? Yes, it has. They're just. It's always the lowest models that retain those kind of features, isn't it? It's really odd. I would think that I'd if I was paying £1,000 plus for a phone, I would want all the features, and yet that's you get the lower end one to get those features. Very odd.
Yeah, yeah, true. It's almost like, well, the people who buy the more expensive ones are more likely going to have decent quality Bluetooth headphones. The people who buy the cheaper one are going to have a wired headphone. How do they make that distinction?
Yeah, exactly. And they're more likely to have money to stream everything, so they don't need a micro SD card. Whereas people that can only afford the cheap one will have to, of course, put all their music onto a card because they won't be able to afford to stream it. I just don't, all joking aside, I don't get this stripping out for flagships. I don't get it at all. I suppose they'll argue that it makes it more waterproof or something, but no, I think I don't get it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're three very attractive looking devices, and it's a real. In fact, it's lovely to have a decent option for those who want to maybe move away from Samsung, have maybe heard the horror stories of the Pixel, and there's not much else out there other than iPhone. They might not want to move to iPhone at all.
Talking of Pixels, how are you getting on with your Pixel 6 Pro? Have you given up yet?
No, I haven't. I like it very much. The only thing that I could fault it on right now is the fact that the adaptive brightness is never just bright enough.
Right.
I always have to go in and fiddle around with it to try and get it just right. It always seems to be a wee bit lower than optimal for my eyes.
We're finding that with the Sony Xperia devices since Android 12. I don't know if that's related or not to Android 12, but yeah, before Android 12 came to the Xperias, the auto brightness, adaptive brightness thingy was just great, and now it's shite. It's just like you described. You're constantly going in. I've actually turned mine off. I've turned it on to manual and just adjust it manually because it's just so annoying. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is an Android 12 thing.
Yeah, yeah. Although one thing I have noticed that since I bought the Pixel, I'm getting a huge amount more Google Opinion Rewards.
Yeah.
I get about 2 a day now. Whereas when I was using my S10 Plus, they'd all dried up and I hadn't had one in months. But now it's reinvigorated and Google are like, oh, we like you. You buy our hardware.
Oh, that's interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
I've not noticed that on the Samsung, because I've been using the Samsung S10 this week. And come to think of it, I don't think I have seen a reward point thingy going through. You might be right there.
And I get them straight after I do a Google search. It's quite a funny one. It's like, what have you searched for recently?
Yeah.
Yoga poses. Quickest way to get from Bangor to Belfast, or this, that, and the other. And you're like, all of those other ones are nonsense.
Yeah. I get that as well. And then it says to you, did you do anything about this? Did you go on to buy this, or blah blah blah?
Yeah. Did you find the information you were looking for? Yes. What information what did you get from this? It was like the information I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thanks.
and then you get a ridiculous amount of money for it, which varies enormously. Yeah. The other day I got something for 70p, and then the next one was like 6p. You think, right? Okay.
Yeah. I got 35 for. Well, I'm averaging about 20, 35 for each of these, and it is about 2 a day, and I'm taking the time because they're kind of high value. They bought me Star Trek 5 through Google Play the other day, which was great.
Yeah, very good.
All right, the Oppo Find series, I'm excited about. I probably would have gone for one of those, and if I were to get rid of the Pixel, which, don't worry, little Pixel, you're in safe hands for the time being, I think I'd actually go for that. Maybe the X5 as opposed to the Pro. I do fancy that X5.
Right, it's a bit smaller, yeah.
It is, yeah. All right, GIF creator, I'm going to say it as GIF, right, we'll continue to say it as GIF, no matter what, it's what I was brought up on. Yeah. Stephen Wilhite has passed away. Wilhite laid the groundwork for the most ambiguous form of communication when it comes to memes, I'd say, which is the GIF, which is a small video-like animation that you can send over, well, it's just a very small footprint that it leaves on your bandwidth. And it changed the face of the world. I really think it's one of those big steps in computing when it moved from sending things from A to B. And it'll continue to be used for an awfully long time, I would imagine. It's going to be very difficult to supersede that. I think many have tried over the years, but the GIF continues to reign supreme. Ted, do you know of GIFs?
This chappie, who I'd never heard of, I have to admit, he looks just like the kind of person you'd expect to be a GIF creator, doesn't he?
You're terrible.
He looks like a programmer, someone that's going to sit and write code. He really does. But that's very sad, yeah. Oh, I was trying to work out when it started. They say in the 1980s, but I'm not sure. That's a long time, the whole decade. Do you remember actually when you first saw a GIF?
I think it was actually that dancing baby.
Oh, yeah. I'd forgotten about that.
It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that was, I don't know, yes, it must have been. But then you see, when this chappie invented it, or co-invented it or whatever, it probably didn't see the light of day like a lot of things for quite some time afterwards. So who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's very sad to hear of his passing, and long live the GIF. Forget the GIF or the YIF or whatever you happen to want to call it.
Have you seen the name of the reporter in this PC Gamer article?
No.
Ted Litchfield.
Wow.
What does that tell you? Am I the lost child of Steve Litchfield?
Could be. Yeah, named after the mother, perhaps.
There you go.
Anyway. You being the mother, I'm not insinuating that. Yeah, okay.
Very sad. Anyway, very sad.
It
indeed.
is. You need to reach out to this person and ask them to come onto the phone show. That will really confuse.
That would be funny, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, just for your personal requirements there, Ted, I've pasted a picture of an infamous Japanese coder into the show notes there for you to have a look at what a person who writes code
could looks
like.
Yes. It doesn't have to be a person who looks like in the nicest possible sense, a kind of nerd. Yes. This is a picture of it looks like a very English or American person trying really hard to look Japanese.
Oh no, she is Japanese. She was a Japanese hacker that was found guilty of hacking into a large amount. But she's got green hair. She's young, very pretty. Isn't wearing a pair of glasses and has a suit on, or carries a briefcase or a thermos or anything that you like to attach to either a computer programmer from the 80s or a paedophile.
Perhaps we should stop here because we'll be told off for disrespecting Stephen Wilhite.
Absolutely, yes, and drawing attention to nasty people. Okay, moving on. So, yes, Europe has agreed to a new law that will curb big tech dominance. Now, this is quite an important one. You could say that it's little changes that it's going to bring in, but it could bring big changes in the coming years. And it actually boils down to some of the big fights that are happening, like Apple and Epic Games going to court about Fortnite and how money is being paid. So it looks like Europe is going to be opening up the requirement for the big tech companies like Google and Apple to loosen their grip on their devices, and the likes of Apple will have to give people the option to be able to uninstall Safari web browser and other various apps that come bundled with the phone. And they're also going to target things like Facebook, where WhatsApp Messenger and iMessage, not that Facebook makes iMessage, but Facebook Messenger and Apple's iMessage and Google Play Store and things like that, to get them to include other platforms that are smaller platforms. So it gives smaller companies the opportunity of actually making it. Now, the counter argument to this is that the likes of, say, Apple have like a really nicely ring-fenced system that they use, and they only let trusted folk in. Whereas if they open it up, it does open up the opportunity for hacking and that sort of thing. And and ultimately they'll be held responsible for any data leaks and things like that that come from them having to do this, which might seem unfair, but whenever you realize the turnover of Apple every year, you'd think that they should be able to afford to be able to invest in the best, most secure system, no matter what the legislation suggests. And the same with Google as well. And it'll be nice to see what creativity the lower end of the market, the people who are trying to set up a new messaging system, for example, like, say, Signal or Telegram, way on down there, might actually come up with, and if they're able to bring something new to the table, whereas the likes of, say, WhatsApp or Facebook Message or iMessage seem to just be, that's settled with what they're doing, and they don't really bring in that innovation that the fresh talent do. Because normally whenever you get something that happens like that, a young developer or a young company creates a messaging client with something unique, the big tech company will just go and buy it and bring that feature in and completely ring fence it so that it can only be within that, and they'll patent it and say you can't use this feature without paying us. Ted, what do you think now that I've been blabbering for a while?
I've got mixed feelings about this whole question of monopolies and fairness with regards to particularly technology and operating systems and stuff, and systems that you see. The point is that I think if I had invented something, if I'd been someone at the outset of Apple, for example, and I'd invented this system and everyone loved it and it worked perfectly well and all the rest of it, and no one was complaining about the fact that iMessage is working nicely or that Safari browser is useful and good and people like it. And then someone comes along and says, "Oh no, that's not fair. You're causing a monopoly here, and therefore, in fairness to everyone else that might want to use this, we're going to make you do A, B, C, and D." And as a company owner or a developer or whatever you are, who's spent time and effort and got it the way you want it, and it's working fine, and no one is complaining much, then you think to yourself, well, why should I change things when it's my company? And why? When it comes to things like legislation for things that are unsafe, I suppose that's different. My mind goes back to working in care homes, where the legislators in the UK put very, very strict controls on what we could and couldn't do. But you can say, well, fair enough, that's to do with safety of the residents and blah, blah, blah. And the same thing's going on in hospital with patients. But when it comes to this kind of thing, you think, well, what's the danger here? Why is it so bad? Why is this happening? And the other point I was going to make was this is EU only. So what we're going to get then is that if this is passed and happens, this whole system won't work anywhere else, just in the EU, which incidentally won't include UK, though I guess that they'll be scooped up inside the changes anyway. So in the Far East and in America, they'll do what they like anyway. I don't know. I've got mixed feelings. I can see both sides of the argument, but my instinct is to come down on the side of the capitalism and say, it's my company and you shouldn't be telling me what I do with it. As much as I think a universal messaging client would be a really good idea, that is better than SMS, which is what RCS is doing and what Google are trying to do, but failing miserably.
Well, I think RCS is kind of working. It's just that Apple don't choose to put it out on their devices.
It's not working here. It's crap. We've been testing it this week. Me and Malcolm Bryant and Steve Litchfield, and it's just rubbish. It doesn't work properly. We found a switch in there to throw which says if you can't send it by any other means, then send it by SMS. Fair enough. You throw the switch, and then you test it, and it still doesn't send it. And then like an hour and a half later, it says, "Oh, hang on a minute, I haven't sent that, I better send it by SMS." So your urgent SMS message gets sent an hour and a half later. It's just rubbish. We have been testing it this week.
Yeah, no, I do agree that it's not quite there yet, but it's still early days. Say, for example, WhatsApp, which is probably about the most universal we have when it comes to messages. because it works the same way on both Android and iPhone. That's basically, and you can use it on desktop and tablets and things now as well. So you want to make a call, but I don't use WhatsApp, right?
No, nor me.
But someone else may use WhatsApp. The idea of this legislation would allow me to use, say, Google Chats or Signal to be able to send a message or make a call into WhatsApp.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Now, that works around the network. Mm-hmm. Now, currently, my brother-in-law is over from Canada, and whenever he texts me, it goes through whatever network it is through iMessage, and it arrives. So he texts me all the time. I've sent him text messages back that go through Vodafone, and I get charged something like 65p every text message.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I had a look at my bill the other day and was like, holy crap, I've got £7 of extra charges here. Dang. And that was something that I that didn't really take into account. I've never really had to send international text messages, but it should be going through RCS as opposed to SMS.
Yeah.
So it should be using my wireless network if I'm in the house or through my data, as opposed to using Virgin's SMS network. Mm-hmm. But I'm still getting charged as if I'm sending a text message as opposed to an RCS.
Which is not how it's supposed to work. That it's supposed to be part of your data if you do that. And that's what I'm saying, really, is that the whole system doesn't work. It seems like a complicated mess that is relying on collaboration with all the operators across the world, effectively. And as you say, it's early days, and maybe in a year or 2 years' time, the system will work properly.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to go down the road of contacting Vodafone and saying, look, I sent this RCS message and you've charged me for it. Yeah. Why?
If you can be bothered.
But it's going to be... I remember doing that once before. I remember, whenever you had a particular cap on your data, I think at one stage when I first... Because I didn't have any signal around here, on 3, I had to get in there Femtocell, which allowed me to use my Wi-Fi to make calls and send messages and use data. And whenever I was using that, the data would still come off whatever cap I had. It was a time maybe I had a 30 gigabyte cap or something, and I noticed that it was going down whenever I was doing something. And I contacted 3 to say, why is my data going down? They said that they're unable to tell whether or not my data is being used through my home Wi-Fi via that Femtocell or through the network. So they just take it that it's being used through the network.
Right.
It's like, but it's not. It's using my bandwidth that I'm already paying whoever I was with at the time, Sky or Virgin or BT for. So you're charging me for nothing. They're like, well, we can't tell the difference, so we're charging anyway. It's like, hang on a second. But that never went further. So the networks are happy enough to roll out these technologies, but then they're just going to charge you regardless, in the hope that you don't challenge too much. And unless you take them to court over it, then if I take them to court over these £7 worth of text messaging charges for sending RCS, it's going to be a waste of my time.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just early. The whole system. And I don't know that we'll ever get there. Particularly, I mean, this kind of law being forced on companies might force it to work quicker and force it to work in certain areas of the world. But I don't know. I still think... you see, SMS is completely universal. It should, even though you're saying that you might get charged for it by routing or whatever else it is, at least you can instantly get your SMS message, urgent message, through to someone. And that's always been the strength of SMS, to fall back on. And this just seems to be complicating the whole thing to me.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep an eye on this going forward and see what happens.
Yes.
Right. Moving on, we'd mentioned the Snapdragon Gen 1 earlier, and I'd alluded to the Snapdragon Gen 2, but there's a rumour that Snapdragon Gen 2 and the Exynos 2300 could be less thirsty due to their Cortex X3 cores. Ted, do you explain
Well,
exactly what all of this means?
This is all a bit beyond me. We need Mike Warner here to describe all this, really. But the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is using the Cortex X3 instead of X2. And yes, what they're saying is that it's going to be less efficient because of the...
More efficient.
Sorry, more... No, the newer one will be less efficient in
right.
terms of... in terms of processing power, but the payoff is that it will increase AI performance by 100%. So the CPU performance won't be groundbreaking, they're saying in this article, but the AI performance is said to see a 100% increase against the older Cortex X2. So the payoff is that it's less efficient in some ways, but the one that everyone's doing at the moment and everyone's focused on about AI and processing AI and everything is the one where the huge increase, but there will be payoffs in terms of power efficiency. I think that's basically the story, isn't it?
It sounds like it, yeah. I'm glad I didn't tackle it there because I got it completely wrong.
Anyway, it's a something or nothing story, really, and it hasn't even arrived yet. This also applies to the Dimensity 9000, incidentally, and the 10,000 that we spoke about coming along. So they're paying. There's kind of payback to moving forward. One step forward, two steps back.
Or they're focusing on things because processors don't necessarily need to run faster. They run pretty fast as it is.
Yeah.
For them to focus on other areas that kind of need work or could benefit from a boost, that's an effective use of time. And you can't just have a processor that everything, it's not like a graphics card where everything gets 10 times better with every generation that comes out. Having a significant upgrade to one of these areas that's in demand is where the best business or the best effective work needs to come in. Yeah, so nice one, Qualcomm. I'm with you. I don't criticize you for that, even though I didn't understand it to start with.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
TikTok
I remember
time.
talking about one of these once before. I think I might have talked about it on... Or no, we had it here, didn't it?
Did we?
Didn't we? I think we did. Drones that you can hook a hose up to and then fly them up a burning building and shoot water at them for as long as the battery lasts, of course. But it's a pretty cool method of putting out fires without having to bring in helicopters and go and scoop up large amounts of water and fish from nearby lakes and dumping it on something that may be burning.
I'm sorry if we did this before. I got a little bit of a feeling of deja vu. This is a linked to a TikTok video of these drones in action, and they've got hoses, as you say, going up from the ground, from the fire station vehicles or whatever. They're flying up higher, very efficiently, and firing the water up in the side of the building. It's just brilliant. Why would you not? Well, who didn't think of this before? If we have covered it before, very sorry, but it's worth mentioning again.
I think maybe when we covered it before, it was a drone that actually had a built-in reservoir inside it, and it flew up and it was able to squirt water or foam or something. It was like a flying fire extinguisher, essentially.
I remember we're talking about the drones that were catching people in blankets. So you had 4 drones on each corner of a blanket catching people jumping out of buildings. But not this one. Anyway, it's worth a quick look at this 30-second video of these things in action. It's really a great idea. Good use of technology.
It is, and it's kind of funny to see the firemen who would normally have been holding the hose just standing around with their phones.
Having a fag. That's a cigarette.
Cigarette for American listeners. Right, okay. So there's more information coming out about the OnePlus Pad 5G, including some pricing and specifications. It's an Android 12 tablet. There's going to be the OnePlus 10 Pro launch coming later. Well, did it happen already, actually, I think?
OnePlus 10 Pro.
I think it did, yeah. The global launch for the OnePlus 10 was...
Oh, no, I think it's on the 29th, isn't it?
31st.
31st, right.
They believe that we're going to have a little a peek at the OnePlus Pad 5G, which is a very exciting looking tablet. And over on Giz China, or Gizmo China, I think it is, they have some rumoured specifications, or leaked specifications that they say at one stage, and then rumoured at another stage. They are two entirely different things, but let's just go with using both of them. So it has an OLED screen that measures 12.4 inches, which will be full HD+. It has Android 12 out of the box. There you go, Ted. Happy about that?
Yay!
Yeah, an 8-megapixel camera on the front, and a 13-megapixel camera round the back. And there's a secondary 5-megapixel camera around the back. And it's important to note that from what we've seen of some of the images of this tablet, there's it looks like about a 2p sized circle on the back of the tablet that's black as opposed to the rest of the tablet silver. And I think it stands out. It looks really nice. There's a video of a lady walking along holding it, and it looks cool. It really does. It's got a Snapdragon 865 inside of it, with options of whether there's 6 gigabyte of RAM with 128 gigabytes of storage, but I imagine that'll be changeable. But I don't think they have any other information as to what's going on with the innards along those kind of processes. So there's a 10,900 milliamp hour battery with 45 watt rapid charging in there as well, which is always nice to see.
That's a great battery, isn't it? That's 11. How does that compare with the Samsung 12.4 inch tablet? I'll have a quick look at that, because I'm sure the battery's not that big.
Yeah, it could be interesting to see. It has Bluetooth 5.1 and a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack as well. The price is 3,000 yen, which works out to be about $470, which is about £400. I'd love to be able to see it come in at that price with those specs. But yeah, it looks like a really nice tablet. This might have a weird aspect ratio though. Looking at some of the pictures of the screen, it seems to be more of a 4:5 kind of aspect ratio. Have you found it yet? Can you?
Yeah, it's 11,200, so it's in the same ballpark.
Okay,
but
it's slightly larger then.
Yeah, the Samsung slightly larger battery, but that's a good battery, and this has got 45 watt rapid charging as well. Here's the thing though, and this is really well priced. I like the whole thing of this. It depends how Oppo-ized it is. I know that Oppo-izing will suit you, but it won't suit me. I don't like the whole colour thing. But OnePlus tend to be doing that now. But here's the thing, is about the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. So OnePlus phones now have completely abandoned that. Why is it assumed that tablets will... Is it just because they're assuming that people will be watching films on them in private, and they haven't got Bluetooth headphones like they might with a phone? Why? What's the difference?
I put this down to maybe it was actually designed a while ago. It's only recently that... No, it's probably so you can hook it up to a set of speakers or something like that whenever you're trying to set it up as a desk option.
You see the inconsistency though, because the new and OnePlus phones, they're with the flagships, they're just abandoning 3.5 completely, like most other people, and yet there's a brand new tablet coming out, that is well, again, it's cheap, isn't it? I suppose maybe it's to do with price point again. I mean, all of this for $471. That's just amazing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I do like the idea of the 3.5 millimeter on there, because when you jump on the train, you plug your headphones in, you don't have to worry about it. Whenever I've tried to use Bluetooth headphones with my tablet on the train, there's always a moment of, is it tuned? Are we connected? I'm sure I'm connected to my phone, to my tablet. It's annoying to have to disconnect your Bluetooth headphones from your phone, connect to your tablet, because that takes up vital TV watching time, and then having to change it back over to your phone. It isn't just as simple as plugging in your headphones and away you go.
Yeah.
But then you're not just going to be able to unplug from that and then plug it into your phone and away you go. But then people don't like wires up them whenever they go for a walk or a run, so maybe Bluetooth. But, give them the option.
Yeah. Anyway, they're obviously... Everyone's trying to now copy Samsung's lead in making these... Well, it's probably Apple's lead, actually, and possibly Microsoft's lead in fact, I'll say that all again. Everyone seems to be following the lead of others in these whacking great big tablets and making, that desktop replacement even more tempting for people to say, forget about your computer, forget about your, just go tablet, and here's a nice big one for you. And they're all doing it now.
Well, the more tablets that come to the market, the better, because, I keep thinking about moving away from my S7 Plus, and there aren't really many options that I fancy. And having something like this is kind of a nice, but it's all to do with the overlays and things like that. I would like an overlay that's going to work nicely with the Pixel, and I'm not going to miss features because I don't have the appropriate phone that's connected with that particular overlay. But I should mention that this has a 12.4-inch OLED display. I missed that bit, which is a 1080p resolution. So it's not like it's a 2K or a 4K tablet or anything, but you wouldn't expect that for sub £500.
Exactly. I like the look of that, as long as Oppo have not buggered it.
Yes, buggering on tablets doesn't work very well. Speaking of tablets that haven't been buggered, Vivo, which is a company we don't talk about terribly often. Oh, I've made a mistake. That 2p thing I was talking about, that's the Vivo as opposed to the Oppo Pad.
I did wonder what you're on about, yes.
The Vivo has a very nice 2p sized camera on the back, which is black. The first official Vivo Pad images were released just the other day, as in, that was Friday, I think? Yeah. And it looks to be another, it looks very much like a certain Samsung Galaxy Tab and iPad kind of design. It's very silver around the back with straight edges, with a slight curve on the corners. This is another good-looking Android option from Vivo, who's a small Chinese company that we do see phones from time to time, but they're not sort of in public view terribly often. This has the Snapdragon 870 processor and 8 megapixel and 13 megapixel camera on there. I'm guessing 8 on the front and 13 on the back. It's got an 8040 milliamp hour battery, which is significantly less, although it is 11 inches in size.
Yeah, it's not so big, is it?
Yeah. There's an optional extra of a sort of a keyboard mouse pad type thing like you would expect, as you've seen on Lenovo and Samsung tablets for quite some time. So it's a nice addition. But there's not too much more known about it, how much RAM or what kind of price it's going to hit.
It comes with a pen.
Like
a digitizer pen thingy. And the keyboard's optional, but it actually comes supplied with a pen. That's quite good, I think.
Yeah. I do quite like this. I do wonder what Vivo's overlay is like. This could be an option if it's a nice kind of naked Android tablet.
The Vivo, I've got a feeling, I'm right in saying, I might be wrong, that it's part of the whole Oppo...
I think it is.
What's it called? BK or something? BIK? No, I can't remember now off the top of my head. But that group of companies, OnePlus, Oppo and all that, I think it is. Prove me wrong, dear listener.
I'm just looking it up on the
Wikipedia
But
the tablet is another one. The trackpad and keyboard look really nice. The design of it, you're right, they might be copying everyone else, but that looks really nice as well. The camera thingy that looks like a 2p piece on the back is distinctive and stylish, I think, as opposed to just snuck in and boring like a lot of them can be. And I quite like the look of his mum. No, let's not go there. And it comes with a pen. Yeah, it looks nice. We don't know all the full details of it yet, or pricing or anything yet, but it looks like another contender. If we ever see it in the West, the Vivo product.
Yeah, it is. It's BBK.
BBK, that's it, yeah.
Oppo, Vivo, OnePlus, Realme, and iQOO.
iQOO, that's pronounced iQOO apparently, like the dove making a noise. iQOO.
Okay, right. Well, we don't have those here, I don't believe.
No, I've never seen one. They do have global releases of some of their phones, but I've never actually seen one.
Okay. Well, hopefully we will in the future. Long live Vivo. Viva, Viva, Vivo.
Viva, Vivo.
Yeah. All right, moving into Flap Your Trap about an app where we start with... Ted, we seem to be doing smutty stuff quite a lot recently.
Dirty boy.
Absolutely. Flickr are asking you to pay to send them nudes. I guess that's the best way to look at it. You will have to go through a paywall for your ability to upload not safe for work photos. And by not safe for work, I think they've defined that as, what is it, full frontal nudity?
And sex acts.
Sex acts?
I think that's the wording, yeah.
Okay.
I don't. Just to interrupt you in your flow, I don't quite get why.
Don't talk about that, please.
Oh, here it is: full frontal nudity and sexual acts. I don't quite get why people are being charged, because Flickr is not a money-making thing. Well, unless it is, and I don't know because I haven't used Flickr for so long. But they're charging users to upload this content. But if you're just a user of it and out there surfing for full frontal nudity and sexual acts, then presumably that is free to you. Or perhaps I'm wrong. Maybe Flickr pages are covered with adverts, and that's how they're monetizing this, to allow people to pay Flickr to upload this stuff, and then the people that are uploading it, who are paying to upload it, then get loads of people looking at it, and they put adverts all over their pages. Do you use Flickr?
No, I don't. I did for a small amount of time, but it didn't seem to be logical, especially whenever they changed things and you were only allowed to upload 1,000 photos or something like that, and people were panicking, trying to get them all out. And as it turns out, they didn't actually delete any of the images to incur that 1,000 photo glass ceiling or whatever, and people were downloading all their stuff. But now they've decided, right, okay, we're going to make money out of naughty pictures,
or perhaps users have to pay the content creators to access their sites. Do they? Is there a paywall in front of? So these people pay Flickr to put up their filth. I mean, their full frontal nudity, and then they charge people a fee to be able to access their channel. I don't know. We good homework done here.
Yeah. Did you not use Flickr before on the phone show for posting a picture of the month?
And then we decided to abandon it because no one was using it, because they'd all gone across to our MeWe group, and there was Richard Yates actually used to run it, and he agreed eventually that so few people were using it that it just wasn't worth continuing. So when I get a new phone now, I've still got a Flickr account, but when I get a new phone or a new device, I don't even bother installing it anymore. So I really don't know what goes on there.
Yeah, it was owned by Yahoo back in the day.
That's right. I think Yahoo bought it from Flickr, because the original company was Flickr. Then Yahoo bought it, and then I think they sold it to someone else, but they kept the name, obviously.
Yeah. Right, okay. So I guess I think, is it Gavin has a Flickr account? We could maybe ask him to go out and get some nudes and upload them there and see what happens.
Yeah, he'll have to pay to do it though.
Yeah, okay, I suppose. Yeah,
we'll bang him a couple of quid, so and upload some nudes and test it for us.
But is this not going to really, get people's raise people's hairs on the back of their necks about things? Because what is art? Having full frontals, that means if you were to take a picture of one of the statues outside, the Manica P, that's the only one I can think of, which is the name of the I know of a naked statue. Admittedly, it's a child, but if you were to upload that would qualify as full frontal nudity, wouldn't it?
I'm not sure if statues qualify because they're not, real people. I don't know.
But then if you were to cover a person in silver paint, would that be representative of, or if you were to do a cast, or how do they change it? Is it just going to be, if it's obviously pornography, then they will be installing a paywall? Whereas if someone is doing life studies, and putting pictures, like your woman from, was it what was that TV show with Bill, Sinner?
Oh yeah,
where she was, I think she was doing nude stuff, Would that be
yeah.
that constitute art and
Yeah.
wouldn't be behind a paywall?
Good question. It is a good question because lots of professional users of Flickr will already be doing that kind of nude thing through their art work. So yeah, and they will be arguing that there's a difference between nude and pornography. And yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. It's one that what was it Tumblr went through this as well, where
Yeah.
they tried to do it the other way. And they tried to stop it all, whereas Flickr seems to be going the other way on this, and charging people. It's yeah, don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe they've watched what happened with both Tumblr and OnlyFans because they hemorrhaged all their customer base and ended up with nothing left. I think they had to do U-turns on it.
Right.
Whereas Flickr are probably going, oh, well, we can't do that. Let's do the other thing then.
And apparently Flickr's doing really badly, which is another.
It always has.
Yeah, financially they're up against it. So perhaps this is one way that they're trying to say, well, let's try and make some money and not fail all the time by giving people what they want, which is porn.
Yeah. That's what sells.
Yes.
It is. Although Netflix has obviously started selling games. Not selling, but they've included them in the subscription, which means you're kind of paying for them anyway. And they've added 3 more to their catalogue, or they're adding 3 more to the catalogue. The first one is This Is a True Story, which is an educational role-playing game about a sub-Saharan African woman's daily struggle to get water for her family, which sounds a bit of an odd thing to be playing as a game. One person's trouble and strife in a game, something a game is designed to be fun. And, so it's a bit of a weird one that I'll have to have a play at it and see whether or not it's just, not
Maybe
very
it's
nicely
supposed.
represented.
Maybe it's supposed to be educational.
Well, they said that it is an educational role-playing
right,
game, and it may be planning to sort of generate awareness, but it doesn't particularly sound like it's going a fun way of putting across awareness. It's a bit, I'd say, controversial to me.
I guess it depends on your definition of the word game, doesn't it? Does game always have to be fun? Or, I mean, you would play a mathematics game, wouldn't you? You'd play,
Wordle is Wordle
yeah,
fun?
exactly. So, yeah, I think it's, yeah.
Yeah, okay. The next one is Shatter Remastered, which The Verge has described as an updated take on the hit brick-breaking game released on the PS3,
Yay.
which doesn't really help if you don't know
Breakout.
what Shatter was on the PS3. Oh, no, it's not Breakout. It's just brick-breaking. So it could be, demolition or something like that, or maybe cocaine, bricks of cocaine that they're smashing. Don't know, but yeah, they haven't described what the game actually entails. The next one is Into the Dead 2 Unleashed, which is the sequel to Into the Dead, which is a runny, gunny, hyper first-person shooter runner game that's I think, go from A to B and along. It's like an on-rails shooter with a little bit of deviation, if that makes sense, if you know what those are.
With zombies.
But I think that, yeah, that's the most ambitious
Is
one
it,
here.
that's the one that this picture is of, I assume, is it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where there's zombies walking around and... So,
And I don't believe you control the character very much. You just sort of aim the gun and shoot the zombies and try to get through the field that you're running up, or whatever environment.
that sounds like my kind of game. Simple. Straightforward.
simple and stressful.
Yes.
But yeah, they should be coming fairly soon. The updated genre of This Is the True Story based on information from Netflix. So maybe The Verge has already had a bit of feedback about that game, This Is a True Story.
Right.
Yeah.
Launch in November. Never been to a game since... Oh, no, that was the last November. Right, okay.
Yeah.
So,
I imagine they've got to be pretty imminent.
yeah.
But they've got an exclusive there, which is Into the Dead 2, because I knew Into the Dead. I remember playing it. So they've snapped that up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, I guess this is something that Netflix are going to be pushing more. gaming. In
Yeah,
Netflix.
yeah. It's like everyone, it seems. Gaming is where it's at.
It is. It's the new movie, which is unfortunate. Unfortunate. All right. The next up is well, it's more about games, but proper games. We'll talk about proper games here. The Android app version. No, wait, hang on. No, we're not getting there yet. I've got ahead of myself and looking at the wrong section. Ted, what's this?
This is the option in your Google settings on your Android phone, maybe others, but I think Android phone initially, to delete the last 15 minutes of your search history. So if you've been doing something naughty, searching around on your phone for anything, and you want to delete it, but you'd forgotten to go incognito or whatever else other measures you do, you can go to your Google account, your Google app on your Android phone, so the actual G app, go there and then go to settings, and there should be, if it's rolled out to you, it has to me, a new setting to say delete last 15 minutes of search history, and that scoops up anything you've been doing in terms of searching the internet the last 15 minutes and deletes it and removes it from your record, including any instances of Chrome you've got installed. I'm not sure if it does it with third-party software titles, like if you had Firefox installed. I'm not sure about that, but certainly anyway, that's a popped up for me. Do you see that yet?
No, I didn't go looking for it.
I see.
I got to thinking, why would you need to do this? But then I suppose, obviously, you mentioned about naughty pictures and things like that. But someone in the comments has said, if you've been searching for a present, if someone comes along after you and starts using it, you can see the present, which sounds a bit hokey.
Yeah.
I think I'll go for your explanation there. It sounds more likely.
More feasible indeed. But as I say, it's rolling out. I saw it, and I think it's not device centric; it's account centric. So if you see it anywhere, you'll see it everywhere.
You choose 15 minutes.
Yeah, good question. But
what could be done in 15
minutes? Let's not go there.
No,
Let's
we'll move
go
on.
into the Chrome OS news. Which is, the first one is the Chrome OS, Chrome for Mac, Windows and Chrome OS have added this side panel at last. So the stable version of Windows Chrome on my Windows desktop is on version 99, and it is there. So you can then choose whether or not you wish to make use of it. So what happens is that you have if it's installed by default after your update. Incidentally, with Windows, I found you need to go and check for updates. It doesn't do it very well automatically. So you go into settings and then down to settings, the three dots down to settings, and then go and check for updates manually, and then you often see it's there. I did with this Chrome 99. Anyway, so if it's installed and running, you should get a little icon up near your picture at the top, along from the URL bar, which is like a box with a sidebar on it, as you might imagine. Mm-hmm. And if you click on that, you will get a sidebar on the right, which has got a reading list, which you can add stuff to in the same way as you can with Pocket, which we spoke about before. And you can get a bookmarks listing, which replicates the bookmarks bar, which is or is not, depending on your settings, across the top of the screen underneath the URL bar. And so you could do away with that bar if you want to. But the reading list is the one that's more interesting. I still haven't found a way to make that work for me because it's not universal enough in the way that Pocket is, for example. It doesn't work with InnoReader, for example, which is my RSS reader. So it's a bit difficult to adopt that fully. But it's there if you've got version 99. So do have a look and have a play.
Yeah, I've tried to use it as well, even just on the Android version of Chrome. It can be a bit hit or miss whenever you throw something in there. If you're using the News app or on Google Assistant and you hit the wee tab, I don't understand why it doesn't go onto your reading list. Instead, it goes into your news articles, tabbed articles, which is a whole thing completely separate.
Yeah.
Full of stuff that you may have done over the years, and you go, "Oh wow, that was 5 years ago. I put that in there." Blimey.
Yeah. I think I think you're supposed to just have it open all the time. That's the point, which is a bit tricky on. Well, if you've got Chrome Beta, I don't think it's on the stable on Android yet. You should have this. Is it on stable? Let me check that while you talk.
Yeah, I don't. I'm using beta on both. Although I'm quite close to moving to dev on the actual Chromebook itself, and I'll tell you why later on, because I alluded to it earlier, and I'm still stalling for time while Ted frantically clicks
I
around.
can't find it. I don't think it's there. Not in stable. It's on beta. I'll just check beta while you continue to waffle.
Okay. Well, I had another thought about those 15 minutes. Perhaps someone's gone on a tea break and maybe wants to sit and have a cup of tea and not work for 15 minutes. And then what they can do is they can go back and delete the 15 minutes worth of browsing without worrying about the web administrators knowing what they were doing. Perhaps they were visiting the bank, or perhaps they were going to the Daily Express or something like that.
It's in Canary. So on my phone, it's not in beta, but it is in the Canary build. So what I was trying to say was that you could then, if you're in Chrome on your phone, use that, and it'll make it across to what other devices you're signed into or signed into later. But it still doesn't. It's not universal enough. I don't like the fact that it's not universal enough, like Pocket is.
Yeah, and even that Pocket can be a bit of a pain. Whenever you go to share to, you have to go and find Pocket. It's never, even though I use it all the damn time, it's never one of the most used apps. So whenever you're in any Chrome app and you go, right, share, it doesn't come up and you have to find it.
No, mine comes up. After I've used it once, it then lodges itself in the left-hand corner, so that when you use it the next time, it's the most recently used one.
Well, that's great for you then.
Indeed it is.
Maybe mine's just broken. Although I still don't think that my reader list actually syncs. I know I've got sync turned on, but I'm having a look at it, and I remember looking at something in my Chromebook earlier on and sticking it on there whenever I was having to play with this, and it's not there.
Isn't it?
I don't think so. Maybe I didn't actually save it. Although one thing I did delete off it, pages that you read, there were 3 this morning, and there's only 1. I'm pretty sure that I deleted that 3rd one.
Right. So
I don't know that it's syncing well.
Right. Okay. So in your Chromebook, did you say?
Yeah.
What version of your Chromebook are you on? Are you on developer? Beta?
No.
So maybe it's not yet on. No, it's supposed to be on the stable. Have you updated it to version? Well, you should be on version 101 on beta now. Have you?
Yeah. I got an update.
Right.
Yesterday.
Okay. So that should have worked then. I don't know why it's not.
Yeah. I'll have a play with it later on. I did have that sync problem earlier, but it was turned off by default. But I've checked it there, and it is turned on.
Okay. Do you like dynamic, fluent scroll bars, or do they annoy you?
I don't really care if scroll
Well,
bars or scroll bars.
the argument against the dynamic scroll bar is that it is just taking up space, it's annoying, it's something else to eat up your RAM, and blah, 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 completely unnecessary, blah, blah, blah. Whereas the argument for it is that it tucks itself away, minimises until you need it. And you can see this all over apps on Android. There's all sorts of apps that do this, and Core OS apps as well. And apparently they're bringing this to Windows 11 and throughout the system completely. And that will include inside Google Chrome. At the moment in Google Chrome, that it doesn't work. It's not there, but it is in. It's all over the place. So I'll re-ask you the question.
Yes, I do like them.
Right.
Do you?
I'm not sure. Sometimes I'm annoyed.
Oh, hang on a second. That wasn't an option.
Sometimes I'm annoyed by them because you think, well, where is it? And you got to hover your mouse really, really carefully in order to make it get wider and more useful. Then I think, well, if that was just a fat one like in the old days, it would have been just there. I find this on Android phones more because you've got to sometimes use your finger to try and open those up. Anyway, it's it's something that's coming to Windows 11 apparently.
Where do you use a scroll bar on Android, a touchscreen interface?
Inside applications. So if you open up, for example, Power Amp, which I'm doing now, and then go to a list of your songs, then on the right hand side, no, it doesn't do it now, Power Amp, forget that idea. Where does it do it? Hang on a minute, does it do it in the app drawer? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Oh, I've got a Samsung here. I think on the app drawer in Pixels it does it. Have you got a Pixel there?
I do.
So if you open up the app drawer and then start scrolling and then touch the bar on the right,
does
it make it bigger?
But it's. I don't think it's particularly useful. It does show the alphabetical letter, and it clicks to an alphabetical letter, but it is kind of just easier just to scroll, and it's quite nice to scroll, especially when you've got 120 hertz. It's
yeah, but it's supposed to make it bigger. That's the point. It makes it wider. So as soon as it detects that you're trying to use it, let me try and find something that it works in. I'm not doing very well here, but I have noticed it in lists. Is it in Twitter?
But right. So I'm scrolled down. I'm down in the S area of my app drawer, and I tap on the. I was doing it now, but for a while there, I wasn't able to tap on it and do anything with it. It wouldn't move, but the screen would move up and down while I tried to get it. So, yes, maybe it's just that it's not very good.
I'll talk to you about it when we finish, because I can't find an app offhand to actually show that it's working on Android. But it does. But it tends to be coded into the app. It's not a universal thing. But it looks like
the only big novelty or the usefulness of that, I think, on a touchscreen phone is the fact that it lets you know how much of the web page is left.
No. I think I don't think you're understanding properly. The advantage of it on a phone is that it doesn't take up space on the right hand side. So when you're scrolling through something, you've got a very thin bar on the right, and only when you touch it, it opens up a little bit wider, so you can have more control and see it more clearly, and the target for your finger becomes bigger.
Right. Okay. Which it doesn't do.
Right. Okay. And that's why I'm saying I need to find some apps when we're not struggling for keeping a podcast going where it does work, because I've seen it working in a number of places. But anyway, the point is it's coming to Windows 11.
Grand. That's amazing. Fantastic. So, coming to Chrome OS, and it took a number of people by surprise that it was ready to go in the dev build, and this is one of the reasons why I'm now considering using the dev build, but that can be a painful experience depending on how solid you like your Chromebook experience to be, is Steam. Steam has appeared. Now, this is not the Proton version or the sort of ramshackle Linux install that people have been using for the last number of, years, maybe. This is a slightly different version. And I thought perhaps it was going to be the same one, because I went through a guide to reinstall it recently, and I was like, this is exactly the same as what I did before. But then I'm having a look at what 9 to 5 Google have put together, and they've listed some games that Google says that they have tested, which made me think, oh, I've got that one. I'll go on to my Chromebook in the beta build and try the SteamOS client that I have shoehorned on through many of the guides that you can find online to get the Linux version of Steam onto your Chromebook. The one that made me think, hang on, something's up here, was Grim Dawn, a game that I don't know how I got, but I have. And it said that it wasn't compatible with my Chromebook, which made me question it as to what was going on here. So, I found out that, you have to install the dev version, and then you can install this beta client, or dev client, I suppose, of Steam, and these games are guaranteed to work nicely and tested by Google to work quite nicely. And there's a list on here of some of these games, and some of them are quite impressive. Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition's on there. So that's a great option for anyone who wants to go and spend 200 quid on a small laptop and then 10 quid on Steam and have the best time of their lives. Fallout 4's there. It has an asterisk beside it, but I haven't actually worked out where the asterisk is attributed to, or what note they have about that, because maybe they forgot to put it in or they've put it in some other place. But both Skyrim, Witcher 3 and Fallout 4, which all sound like fairly ambitious games, probably require some extra level of hardware or super fast i7 processor, because you have to remember Chromebooks don't come with built-in graphics cards. They have onboard graphics, which can enhance your experience and speed up a game, but it's never going to mirror that of a 3080 Ti or something like that you have in your desktop. So it's going to rely heavily on graphics powered through the main processor. But there's a list of Chromebooks that they recommend using, but anything with an 11th gen i5 or i7 with 8 gigabytes of RAM. And thankfully, I have an i7, and I do remember, I think it was your man, it was either Ted Litchfield or Ted Salmon, said when I bought it, "Oh, that's overpowered. You're never going to use that i7." But I'm glad I did.
What have you got? A 514?
The Chromebook?
No, 434, wasn't it? Is it 4,
yeah, it's a
434, right, okay. Because your 434 is not on the list anyway of supported Chromebooks.
No, but it has an i7 with 8 gigabytes of RAM, so it should work. Okay. These are just the recommended ones. If you're going out to buy one today, try and choose one of these, because these are the ones that Google are probably testing, or they say is good enough. Mm-hmm. Steam is coming, and hopefully this means it's coming fast. I'd love to be able to see this hit beta fairly soon. I don't want to have to switch over to the dev, because it's a lawless Wild West town in there where anything can happen. And you can just be using it and then boom, dead.
I've never had that happen. I have the dev channel on my Chromebook all the time, because I feel as though I want to test things that are being talked about and coming along. And I've never had it crash or do anything naughty. And I think that it's perfectly, well, it's obviously not perfectly stable, but I've not noticed anything dreadful.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe I might give it a go in the coming week if I get some time to find out what this game Grim Dawn is really like. Half-Life 2's on there.
I was going through this list of games and trying to work out if I actually know any of them. And RimWorld, that sounds disgusting. There's World of Tanks Blitz. I got a feeling I know that one, but I don't.
You've probably seen an advert for it.
There's about 20 or 40 games here, something like that. And I honestly don't think I know any of them. What's Tabletop Simulator?
I think that simulates tabletop games, like chess or stuff like
boring.
that. You'd probably like Overcooked 2.
Overcooked 2. Okay.
Yeah, that's a crap game about cooking. It's a bit like what was that? It was Tapper on the BBC, where you have to just produce food and serve it to the customers as quickly as possible. Dead simple, not much to it.
Yeah.
Cute and cuddly graphics. Okay. My son loved it for years, but now he's passed beyond it.
Dead Cells.
Or Geometry
Don't Starve Together.
Oh, that's a great
one. Is it?
Yeah, Don't Starve series is a survival one with a really unique pixel art, or not pixel art, but a unique art style.
Okay. Euro Truck Simulator. I've got a feeling I might know that one as well. Driving trucks around the place, like the Tanks Blitz ones. That's probably why I know that one.
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah. Euro Truck Simulator is an interesting one because, you just get in the truck and then drive it from, somewhere in France through to Italy, and it takes you 30 hours or something like that.
Right. Very boring.
But Disco Elysium is quite exciting. And there was another one that I got RimWorld would be quite good as well. It's an excellent strategy game.
Right. I had a go with this game recently, and all you did was drove this truck and backed it into shop delivery bays and then drove down the road. I think, why are people doing this? What was the? And then there was another one which was a train simulator where you choose your locomotive and you sit and you drive this train down this track, and then you stop at station. And you think, why would you want to do that? Don't get it. Give me Sim City.
There's Power Washer Simulator as well, where you have a dirty path and the power washer, and you use the mouse to clean the path.
Right. That sounds like a time killer, not a game.
It's therapeutic, I think. I did one of I think it was like a train station cleanup simulator, where there's an old broken down train station somewhere in Eastern Europe, and you have to go and fix a load of stuff around, paint things and make it presentable again, clean up all the trash and fix the windows and put in kiosks and things. And it was kind of satisfying, but then once you do it twice, you realize that there's more to life. than this.
And
put on The Witcher,
and that's a bit like Sim City, to be honest. There comes a point where you've made a city and it works perfectly, and you don't go and do another one, and you think, right, okay, well, I've done this now.
Well, that's where Godzilla and the tornadoes come along in Sim City.
They
destroy your city and unbalance it. I love Sim City. There's no end to Sim City.
Sim City 2000, please.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So moving into Harkback, where we talk about things that you can just about remember. I was on the Wayback Machine. I don't know if anyone's ever used this, but you can use it to have a look at websites. And the Wayback Machine kind of takes a snapshot of certain pages on a website, not the whole website, but you can get a bit of information out of it. And I was having a look at my particular website and going back throughout the years to whenever I was quite young and first set up the website, and it's embarrassing to do that, to be honest. And I found there was a guest book and things like that on there. That, remember whenever websites had guest books and you could sign in and say, oh, I found your website quite nice, or in my case, you're a dick, take this website down, you're a moron, which happened quite frequently. But I noticed at the very bottom of my website, because I was into filmmaking and I was trying to put myself out there as actor, director, and all these kinds of things, that I was a member of an independent film web ring. And then I remembered web rings. And it was back in the days before we had Google and we had a search engine optimization and things like that to be able to find other websites that are related to what you're in. And the internet was it was bringing itself together and trying stuff out to get information effectively distributed to the people who needed it. But you could be part of a web ring and you could just move from one website to the next inside this web ring. So whenever you basically clicked right, it would move you onto another website that did something similar to the one that you were in, all inside this independent film ring. And it would be nice to get into a web ring, because then you would meet other people that would be part of those web rings. And as a result, I ended up getting cast in a couple of films for local people who were inside that web ring as well, which was really quite cool. Or you could hit random and it would take you to a random member of the web ring, and it could be someone here, it could be someone far away, and you would have that initial connection whereby the two of you are in this web ring. I thought it was a lovely idea, and it's gone away now, but there was a couple of web ring hosts. There was webring.com, Webringo, which is the one that sounds familiar enough to me, and then there was RingSurf and AltWebring, which were the ones that sort of managed the rings, and you could set a ring up if you decided to and put it together, because I guess PodHub in a way would be a bit of a web ring where there's a bunch of people who submit their podcasts under Steve Litchfield's umbrella in that way. And it just made me think, this is something we don't do anymore, because we all just, when we're looking for something, hit Google or other search options or search engines are available, and depending on who has the best search engine optimization, you will find that website whenever you go searching for it. So different times meant that you had different ways of doing things. Do you remember web rings, or were you ever part of one?
Vaguely, I've got a feeling that I probably was, but I just can't remember. It rings huge bells, but how do you interact with people? I don't quite get what you see with PodHub UK. You've got about, I don't know, 10 members, if you like, of that group, but there's not really any links between them as such. They're not really. They're not really. You.
But they're podcasts, independent podcasts.
Yeah, but they're also web pages. So you've got web pages that each one belongs to a web page, or it's got a mother web page. But if you go to one of those web pages, how would you then go to the next one? Because there would be a hyperlink at the bottom of each one.
Yeah, there was a little banner that had a couple of options on it. Good old-fashioned blue links that you would click. And it would be next page in WebRing, previous page in WebRing, random page in WebRing, or I think you could even report the page to the WebRing.
In which case, why can't you just set it up yourself anyway? Why can't you could just do that now, couldn't you?
You could do, but you could go to the WebRing source and find rings to put yourself into.
See. So,
which is okay. What I ended up doing. Right. I either got invited or I went to. I saw someone else who had this web ring at the bottom and thought, "Oh, I'd like to be part of that." And then I would be able to go to the web ring source and say, "Can I be part of this web ring?" And as long as I met a certain criteria, then I'd be in the club, and I'd be cool.
So the club is the club of clubs, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's the Club of Clubs. Yeah, that's exactly it. Well, they should have called it that, Club of Clubs.
Well, yeah, it's a network that other people doing what we just described. There's a central source of what everyone else is doing. A bit like going to MeWe, and you've got in MeWe. If you go searching in MeWe, there are different groups that other people have set up, like we've set up our own groups, and you can go and find those and be a part of those. So in a sense, it's a bit of a web ring in itself, MeWe.
Yeah, and I think this is ultimately the decline of WebRing and similar services was because of search engines and social networking becoming the new way to find stuff, and that it becomes a wee bit more of a savvy thing. Back then, web pages were home pages for people. Anyone with a bit of savviness could set up their own home page. And I having a look through my guest book, I can't believe the amount of comments that I had. And if you were to compare that to the amount of hits that you get on a website now, and manage to scrape away the information about bots and things like that, all scouring your pages to take the information, I think maybe it was just as effective as it is now for getting traffic to smaller websites. Bigger websites obviously have the money to be able to get some specialist in with their SEO knowledge and get themselves pumped up to the top of the listing in your Google search, or they can push their they can pay a certain amount of money to appear at the top of the search whenever you're looking for independent film websites or something like that. So you don't get what you're looking for. But back then, you've got your GeoCity websites that people were setting up themselves with flying toaster GIFs all across them and things like that, and plagiarized bits and pieces and just badly framed websites that a lot of people were quite happy to put up there, and we tolerated. We were quite amazed whenever things like, I remember having a webcam on my website, and my brother first set it up, and it would stream his office 24/7. You could see him sitting in front of his computer, and then whenever I took over his office, I would put it up for 20 minutes and go, why am I doing this? And then take it down. All those lovely things that you were playing with and didn't quite know what to do with in the early days of the web.
Yeah.
And web rings were part of that.
Yeah. which with that particular example, that's kind of evolved, I suppose, into saying people now saying, right, okay, we can do this to make sure our delivery is tracked properly, or that the the DHL driver behaves properly, or we can check on our elderly relative 24/7, and so that those uses have evolved from playing about with it back in the day that you're describing, tinkering with the technology to make it useful later on.
Yeah, yeah. And web rings were a really sensible way of doing this.
Yeah, I quite like it. I'd forgotten about it. I don't think I really was in it much, but I do. I know what you're talking about, and I don't know why it couldn't happen now. Except, as you say, other things have taken over.
Yeah. Fun times, fun times. You got to meet people, and I got a bit of work out of it, so it was all worth it.
Yeah. Early social networking.
That's right. So moving into the bargain basement, we have some pretty cool bargains, I have to say, this week. It's worth checking some of these out. The first one is one that I'm deliberating. I've got it in my basket currently, and I'm maybe going to hit purchase on it, just depending on what happens in the next couple of days. It's a ViewSonic Elite 27-inch WQHD curved gaming monitor with FreeSync Premium Pro. Not just FreeSync, Premium Pro. I have no idea what the difference is between FreeSync and FreeSync Premium Pro, but
what's FreeSync?
Phenomenal. There's two different types of synchronization whenever it comes to graphics cards. You've got Radeon has one, and then AMD has one, AMD FreeSync, and then there's NVIDIA has another, where your screen will be timed to your graphics card.
Oh right, okay.
And there was a while there where you could end up purchasing one and it wasn't actually compatible with maybe a NVIDIA card,
right,
and optimal.
Okay.
So you had to get the right technology. But now FreeSync's come along, it means it should work with both, I believe. But this is dropped in price from £392 down to £292. So it's £100 off. It's 27 inches and it's curved. It looks gorgeous. I like ViewSonic as well very much. 1 millisecond, 165 hertz, 4K, 27 inch. That would look really good sitting where I'm looking right now, with what I have right now turned on 90 degrees and being beside it with my email clients and Skype and Audacity on it. That could work very nicely for £292. Bargain.
Yeah, this is one of these things that I think to myself, if at some point I need a new monitor, which I don't, I would start looking at things like curved screens. So, but it just seems a bit mad to go and pay £300 for one when I've got a perfectly good one. What I do like about this though is the tilt, swivel, and height thingy, which is what my Dell system, my Dell monitor that I've got now has got. So you can move it up and down, and left and right, and swivel it up into portrait if you want to. And it just moves any way you like. And just on a simple stalk, I think that's a great idea. And lots of them don't do that from my experience.
There's an image that I don't quite understand, and maybe you have seen these before, but I haven't yet, and I haven't Googled it to see what it actually is. It says eliminate cable drag with a built-in mouse anchor. And it's like a clip that sticks out from the bottom of the screen. And I'm wondering if that is something that you put your wire from your cable through or something like that?
I think it is. So what it's saying is that don't have your mouse's cable running just across your desk. Have it elevated, and I guess that it makes so it doesn't enable your mouse to get dragged anywhere. I think I can see what they're saying, but whether it's useful or not, I don't know.
No, I do like this. I think this is really good value for money. And I bought my son a curved gaming screen a year or so ago, or 2 years ago. And I do like sitting down in front of his computer because it's lovely. It kind of hugs around you. And it feels a wee bit more command centery So I do quite want that in my life. Having a curved gaming screen in front, that just was flat so yesterday.
I just found a photograph of someone using a mouse anchor, and it is just as I suspected. It just kind of elevates the cable for those that still use a cable with their mouse, which is a bit archaic.
Well, some people do.
Yeah. Indeed.
Cool. Gamers tend to, because it gives a faster response. Anyway.
Right, my first one is something that has run out. But if you bought this yesterday, you could have got it for 149 quid, but it just ran out, I'm afraid. But it's still...
No, it hasn't. It says in stock, free delivery by tomorrow.
What, 149 quid?
No.
239. Yeah, it went up yesterday, between yesterday and today, from 149 to 239, but it's still 20% off. And apparently these Beats Studio 3 noise cancelling headphones are really quite good. 22 hours of battery involved, and Bluetooth obviously, and blah blah blah. And they looked really nice. I don't think I've ever had a pair of Beats headphones personally, but I'm sure you've got a little stock there. Have you?
No, I don't. But I was in the hospital a couple of weeks ago, and there was, I don't know if she was a nurse or a cleaner, but she was in this little room across from the hospital room I was in, and she was dancing around with a set of Beats on.
Right.
Dancing like no one was watching. While she was doing some work, and she was kind of she was getting down to whatever tune she was listening to, and I thought it was really quite cool. It was a great advert for Beats, and I wish I had videoed it, but getting my camera out and videoing her would have been creepy and a bit insensitive as to why I was there. But yeah, it was surreal to watch, and I just thought that's a really good advert for Beats. She's loving this.
Yeah.
And working in a hospital, a dank, horrible, smelly hospital.
Yeah. And if you look at these headphones, you can see where Anker Soundcore have nicked their design from. They're almost, particularly the red pair, are just almost clones of the Anker Soundcore ones, the Q series, which is no bad thing. But they're really pretty and really nice looking headphones as well. I'm not sure that the cup sizes will be big enough for my great big ears, but for normal people they'd be great, and they fold up, they look nice. Yeah,
and I didn't go over to that nurse and asked what her cup size was like. Again, that'd be quite insensitive.
You might have got a slap.
Probably, yes. And I would have interrupted her song, that's why, because she would have had to take the headphones off to hear me. Unless this has noise cancelling, atmosphere
yes, it has noise cancelling. Yeah,
but the other one as well. What was it? You can hear through stuff that was happening where it in traffic.
Oh
and
yeah,
still hear the traffic.
yeah.
What's it
well,
called?
it depends on the manufacturer. The Apple one's called something different to the Sony one, and I can't remember what either of them are called.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on quite swiftly to. I bought one of these yesterday because I got a new security camera and I want a big SD card to stick into it, and I got a 512 gigabyte micro SD plus SD adapter SanDisk Ultra. This is a Class 10 U1 card. Tuned in last week for our definitions of SanDisk cards, if you like. For 50 quid, down from 70 quid, which I thought was pretty darn good. There is a 1 terabyte version there as well, but I didn't quite stretch that. It's down from £217 to £164, but that seemed a little bit of overkill. The 512 for this 1080p camera I've got will allow me to store a large amount of footage on there.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Not a lot of money either. 50 quid I thought was pretty good for that.
I think 70 quid's good for that. The last time I bought 512 gigabyte card, I've got 2 of them. It was significantly more than that. You know, as we keep saying on this show, these memory card prices just drop and drop. But yeah, that's a stunning half a terabyte for 50 quid. Amazing.
Yeah, I don't actually. I'll be interested to see how much footage it allows. Maybe it'll be like 3 weeks worth of footage or something on there.
Yeah, it depends on what you're recording it on, of course. But yeah.
Oh no, I want the full 1080p, so that's why I went for a larger one. I could have stuck in a 256.
We should look forward to your feedback then. Now, here's something that's interesting, which I don't think I've seen before, but you probably have because you're a man of the world. It's a box which is a USB-C docking station, which gives you all sorts of kind of dual monitors out and USB 3s in and blah 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 blah. You basically plug it into your laptop if you haven't got enough ports, which is true in my case, and it does all that stuff for you like a good docking station or hub does. But the difference with this one is that you can also put SSD into it by the looks of it. And I don't know how common that is, but I don't think I've seen it before. So it's got a slot. You take the lid off of it, and it's got a slot, or in fact, it's two slots, isn't it? And you can put storage and memory into it, which means, I mean, it's just the same as putting a something in the front or in the card slot or whatever, or the USB-C, but it's built in. You can actually make this one of your drives. Have you seen that before?
I'm inclined to say yes, but I haven't seen this specific one. But we talked about one quite recently that had, I think it was one of these that took an SD, and it also took a 2.5 as well.
No, that's my little computer that does that. The B link.
Yeah. But it's just somewhat similar to this, but without the processor, essentially, without the ability to install an operating system on it. So it eliminates you having to have external drives sitting on a desktop, whereas you can put them directly into your port connector.
Or perhaps you could put an operating system on it. If you put an SSD in there with Windows 11 on it.
No, it wouldn't have a processor. Unless you're hooking it up to something like well, no, the next dock wouldn't even work there either. No. But I've always wondered, where you have a Chromebook, if you were to hook it up to a USB hard drive, how is it just to have things like the sync and the backup? I can imagine on a Windows laptop, you can have a sync client running whenever it detects that connection. Because it can say, whenever you connect to this, what do you want to run automatically? And you could run Rclone or something like that whenever you plug in your laptop to an external hard drive, and it'll back up all the information whenever you get home from work. And essentially cloud replaces that or assists that in a way. Having this, if you are to hook this up to a Chromebook and have media stored on there, or would it just be another hard disk that would mount on your device, and then you actually have to unmount it correctly before you disconnect it,
or just turn it off. Yeah.
Okay, but then you'll get Google saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" There, right there.
No, just turn the Chromebook off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is
which is not what you'd always want to do, but it just looks like an interesting little device, and it's got 15 quid off, so it's it should be 130 and it's 115, but I don't think I'd ever seen one before. The whole concept looks really interesting.
It's got a ton of nice ports as well. There's on the back, there's two USB 2s, a VGA, two HDMIs, no, three HDMIs in fact, two USB-Cs that say host 1 and 2, Ethernet and power. Then around the front, you've got your 3.5mm headphone and microphone jack, USB Type-C on there. A host 1 and 2 are what you use to actually hook it up to your device around the back. Right.
How does that work? You see the cable that comes with it? It's got a double USB-C.
Yeah, that plugs into the back there on that host 1 and 2, and then
what do you do with the other end of it?
The MacBook has two USB
right.
Type-C.
Okay, so that's specifically for Mac, is it? Okay.
Yeah, but elsewhere on the front, you've got the USB Type-C on the front, which appears to be some sort of LED, micro SD card reader, an SD card reader, and then three USB 3s. Yeah. So it's well spec'd. It's very nice. 130 is a good price. Yeah. And there's a £15 off voucher as well. Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought it was probably more interesting than necessarily a bargain. But yeah, there is 15 quid off.
Yeah, and it's not going to move around quite as much as I've got a little USB dock that I hook up my Chromebook to whenever I bring it up here to power it. Although the charger, if you hook the USB Type-C in through this, it doesn't charge it. It just keeps it level. It's subdues the electricity going through it. And it heats up.
Oh, it's got
superbly as
it's
well.
got 100-watt charging as well. I didn't realise that. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pass.
Oh, right.
Why? Tell me this then. Why is the SSD enclosure only capable of 2 terabyte capacity, or is that crap? Because I would have thought that if it's a slot, then it's a slot. It wouldn't be limited to capacity, surely.
Couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Don't know.
I think that's crap, because quite often they say it's got this limit, but actually when it comes down to it, it doesn't really.
Yeah, I wonder if they're actually meaning the SD card or the micro SD card in the front. They usually come with that kind of limitation. I
that's
don't know
right.
if I've seen SSD connectors having that sort of limitation.
Anyway, that looks quite interesting, I thought.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Hopefully that's a whole ecosystem we're going to see coming out. Yeah. And next up is it's a hard disk. Actually, I tweeted one yesterday, which was a lot cheaper than this, but this is special. This is the Western Digital My Passport Portable SSD 2 terabyte with NVMe technology inside it. It's gorgeous. And it's like a goldy colour as well, so you can just be a wee bit gaudy walking down the street, showing this off to people, and the women will faint. It's USB Type-C, read speeds of up to 1,000 megabytes per second, write speeds of up to 1,000 megabytes per second. Actually, it's 1,050 write speed, or read speed, and 1,000 megabytes per second write speed.
Or is it bits?
And it works with... No, it's bytes. It's capital B there. It works with PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and is available in gold. It also comes in a variety of different colours as well. There's
The red one.
there's
Yeah, the red
red.
one's lovely.
Yeah, and the black one too. But are they cheaper or the same price?
I'm just checking that. So
The red one is the same
Some
price?
of them are different models, actually. That one's really expensive. 245 quid. One of them is. Obviously different colours are different prices.
Well, the red one's still 161, so yeah, that might not make the women pant as much, but certainly make Ted pant as much if he saw you with one
This
of these.
this looks almost exactly the same as my SanDisk Extreme. The form factor is just exactly the same. It doesn't look as though it's got the same weatherproofing though that the SanDisk has. But apart from that, yeah, fantastic. I want
Dinky.
a 4 terabyte one. How much are they? Yeah, they're 600 quid. You see, nearly the same size, the same price as the SanDisk one. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love these. I'd love to have one of them. They're just, even looking at the size of it, it's a wee bit like the size that smartphones used to be, like a Nexus 1, that kind of size. It reminds me of a Nexus 1 hooked up to the computer.
A Nokia.
Or an iPhone 3G, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's slightly bigger, in fact, an iPhone.
Very, very nice.
Yeah. What's next?
Right, this one is a USB-C power adapter, which I noticed was really well priced because we were looking at these last week, Steve and I, and we thought, right, every household should have one decent power one. So this is a 96 watt USB-C power source. It's very simple. It's quite brickish. It's not very small, and it's only got one USB-C port in it, so it doesn't pretend to be anything that it's not. It's simple and straightforward. One port, 196 watt, that's your lot, and it's been reduced from 50 quid down to 30, and there's also a 10% voucher off of it as well, which brings it down to about 30 quid. And we thought that we were looking at other ones that were significantly more expensive than this, so that if you just want one overriding one for the household that does stuff fast and powerfully, this could be a good option at the moment.
What's an eMark clip?
A what?
It says it's got a built-in eMark clip. Not chip.
Clip.
Clip.
eMark clip. Where does it say that?
It shows a picture of a microchip, and it says it's got a built-in eMark clip. I'm interested to see what that might actually be, or is it just some sort of signature
Can't
thing?
even find it. Which picture is it? Oh yeah, there it is. I've got it. Built-in eMark clip. No idea.
Excellent.
And it's also flexible bending. These things are to do with the plug on the end, aren't they?
No, well, it doesn't look like it bends very much. It bends whenever it's sitting about a foot out from the wall.
Yeah, the bit that goes into the actual plug housing, it's flexible bending. I think that means that it's not going to break off anytime soon. Anyway.
Oh, that wee
Look,
bit at the very end.
there's the built-in E-mark clip, just down to the bottom. There's a little picture of it, it was a chip. It is a chip. It's not a clip.
Yeah, but if you look just above that, it shows you where the flexible bending is. It's a collar around the wire that goes into
that's what I meant. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Right,
they've printed that wrong. It's a chip, isn't it? Because there's a little picture of it with on a motherboard or whatever it is. So what that does, I have no idea.
No, but they've done it twice actually, because it says at the top of that image as well.
Yeah, really odd, isn't it? Three times.
Oh, hang on a second. It's got a smart IC chip that provides overload, short circuit protection, overload protection, overheat protection.
Oh, okay. That's the same thing as Anker do with their yeah. This make is Legaomi, incidentally. So you take your chances with that one.
Okay, well, it might work for someone. Hopefully,
Yes.
96 watts is good. All right, next up is staying on the charger side of things is the Anker wireless charger. This is the Power Wave Pad. It's compatible with the iPhone 12, the 12 Mini, the 12 Pro Max, 11 AirPods, 10 watt fast charging, Galaxy S20, S10, S9, Note 9.
Anything.
all stuff. Yeah. If you can wirelessly charge it, G-Chargy, then this will do it. It was £16. Now it's down to $9.99. There's another 5% off voucher while stocks last, and it's built by Anker, so it's got to be decent quality.
Yeah, absolutely. This looks great. I've got 2 or 3 of these kicking about, and they're not Anker ones, but they're quite. In fact, there's one in front of me right now. What make is that one? Oh, it is Anker. I tell a lie, and I've had that one for years, and it still sits on my desk for getting occasional use. So yeah, that's a really good price.
Great, yeah, and it ships to Northern Ireland, which is shocking because it pertains to charging and batteries. Wow, incredible. Okay, and last
but not least is my. Since I got my new keyboard, I've got back into this mechanical keyboard lust, and so I went this week searching for videos and stuff and learning more about mechanical keyboards again, and I kind of fancy it. I remember this Apple keyboard I had once, which was really, really classy. It was lovely to use, and clickety clackety clickety clack, and it was really nice. And so I went off hunting, and apparently this one, which is currently £54 with a £15 voucher, 15% voucher off, making it £46, is a red switch one, which makes it linear, which means that it doesn't go clickety clack. It makes it virtually silent, to be honest. And it's a bigger size one. So you've got a proper. You were talking about the cursor keys being missing before, and this one has got the cursor keys there, and it's got a number pad. The whole thing is a bigger one, but it just looks like it's really, really nice, and it's not that expensive. It's called the Red Dragon K551. There is a K552, and there's a 551 which has not got as many keys without the number pad. So lots of them out there, and I've been enjoying researching that, and I thought, maybe £46, I'll have a go with that and see what it's like again. But you didn't. When I spoke about this before, you said that you just weren't interested, didn't you?
Yeah, I think there's a time and a place for mechanical keyboards, especially if you're a gamer. But to type on them, it's a bit of a workout, and your fingers hurt after a while. But I'm trying to find out the difference between. There's the RGB backlit with red switches, which is $54.99, and then there's the rainbow backlit with red switches at $44.99.
Yeah, the rainbow one it's got less keys, but it's also
Does it?
Yeah, it hasn't got the number pad, has it?
Does
it? Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, it has. But
I think the difference is the RGB as opposed to rainbow backlit.
yeah, the rainbow has got. If you look at the keys on the rainbow one, all of the keys on different rows are rainbow coloured keys, whereas the first one, the keys can be any colour. I think that's the difference. Every key can be any colour on RGB, whereas on the rainbow, the colours are set in the keys, and you get what's there, backlit as it may be.
I suppose you then need the software, and you can highlight keys depending on what game you're playing, so that you can see them when you're gaming at night.
Indeed.
I've had a number of mechanical keyboards in the past that have had setups that you can download, and your Call of Duty setup, and it'll highlight certain keys, and you can find them straight away.
Right.
So all the keys around it are black. Whenever you need to go to your inventory,
right.
you can find the I button because it's lit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really fancy a mechanical keyboard though. One of these days I'm going to get one. And this Red Dragon 551 and 552, they do review really well. And the company apparently is a British one, which is interesting. And if you go to various review sites, this Red Dragon, for the price, is coming up really high up the list of recommended keyboards. So one of these days, I just might.
One of these days. Right, okay. Well, we'll look forward to that. There is a mechanical keyboard I do actually fancy. I saw it advertised the other day. I'll see if I can find it. I think it's the G915 from Logitech.
Oh,
yeah. That's the one.
Yeah. But it's about 150 quid, isn't it?
165. Actually, it's reduced from £900 or from £200 down to £164.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, that's lovely. And it's got a scroll wheel up in the top right-hand corner as well. I don't whatever that does. It's got light speed technology built in there, Bluetooth, gaming mode, battery, caps lock. It's got a caps lock. Wow. I just love the look of that. Those keys look gorgeous.
Yeah, I do get that. I looked at that one, and I thought, yeah, it's just too much money for an experiment. 46 quid felt kind of all right. Particularly as you can return it if you really hate it to Amazon. But if you start shelling out 100 plus quid, you think, oh, this is getting a bit serious now.
It is. But you see, you sit down with another keyboard, you'll always be looking over at your MX keys going,
yeah,
I'd rather be using that.
Yeah. I think I just got to try it because I just got to try it, and then, like I say, I can return it. That's what Amazon is good for. Why not? And that's what they advertise. No quibble returns. So why not use it? That's what I say.
Well, I suppose you could start doing it, reviewing it, and then returning it.
I'm not saying that I would do it routinely, but on this occasion, when I'm not sure, that's the whole point of it. Get one in, have a go with it, because they haven't got a shop. Amazon have not got a shop that I can go to and try it out. So get it in, have a go, see if I like it, and if I don't, oh well, thanks very much, but I want my money back.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to bring it to a close there because I need to go around and see my mother. Yes, you can get in touch with us by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk, and you can also find us on TechAddicts Twitter at TechAddicts. I'm on Twitter as well at Gareth Miles, and I have my GarethMiles.com too.
I have my tedsalmon.com, so do head across there for links to everything. All the MeWe groups, links there to join our MeWe groups, all of them, and also our audio podcasts, left, right and centre. If you want to buy me a coffee, that's very welcome, and thank you very much. You can do that at paypal.me/tedsalmon.
Excellent, and please do that. The links are in the show notes as to where you can support Ted for having to deal with someone as miraculous. And we'll speak to you all next week. Have a lovely week. Enjoy the weather. Don't get too sunburnt.
Or tipsy.
Not that our listeners would do that. No. Take care now.
Bye.